get an easy, just pay off whoever has a Maze Haze if that's the problem, and just get rid of that underscore.
It's some like random account that hasn't tweeted since like 2012.
That's
I'm really
always
mad that
the way.
hasn't deleted it.
No one ever just is like, yeah, there's this other dude has the same name and he's still going, but it's always this dude that hasn't tweeted in 15 years. It's come on, Twitter, kick people out
For real.
Not the point of the show. Welcome back yet again to the DLF Trade Show, and yeah, we're sticking with that title. Let's just run with it. I am Russ Fisher at Dynasty Outhouse. That is Addison Hayes at AmazeHayes_. But the point of this show is to look at a couple of look at a trade about a couple of players that we are a little curious about what their trade value is these days. And honestly, this one has two of them, which kind of makes me this one has 4 players in it, all of which I think could be a great example for this show. So since I am just ruining everything and jumping straight into it, let's just go into it. This is episode 3 at this point. Addison finds a trade in the Trade Finder. We tell you how we feel about it. We look through it through the eyes of the Trade Analyzer, and we wrap things up, and we have a grand old time. Because with me and Addison, it's always a grand old time. So let's just get to the trade. All right, I'm going to try and speak a little slowly on this one because there's parts. All right, so this trade, first side, Juju Smith-Schuster, David Montgomery, and the 110 for Kenny Golladay, Cam Akers, and the 208. One more time, Juju, David Montgomery, 110 for Kenny Golladay, Cam Akers, and the 208. Like I said last episode, every single league that we get a trade from is going to be safe leagues. So again, 12-team Superflex, 6 point for touchdowns, -4 for interceptions. This trade was made on January 15th, so we have a little bit of time in between, but honestly, nothing happened to change any of these guys' value, so we're fine with it. So first, Addison, why don't you give us a little background on these teams? Though with this trade, it might not super matter that much.
Sure, yeah. To me, this did seem like it was a pretty even, it's a running back, a wide receiver, and then the pick adjustment just to kind of value out both sides.
Yep.
But so the first team A, that is the team that gave up Juju, David Montgomery, and the 110. They were the third place team. They finished 9-4 last year. And looking at their roster, this trade didn't seem to do a lot to their roster, at least from my perspective. This person might be valuing Cam Akers and Kenny Golladay a little bit more, maybe doesn't want the Juju free agency noise on his roster. But his current roster right now is Matthew Stafford, Matt Ryan, and Derek Carr at quarterback, so pretty solid. His running backs are Cam Akers now, and then he's got Leonard Fournette, Zach Moss, and Damian Harris. Wide receivers, Kenny Golladay, Will Fuller, your boy T. Higgins, and Chase Claypool. And then he's got Jonnu Smith at tight end. So if you replace Akers and Golladay with David Montgomery and Juju, I don't know how much your outlook of that team changes, but that guy might just have wanted to shake things up and kind of head into 2021. Maybe a little younger, a little less noise or risk on his team. Not much of a huge change, in my opinion, for him. But then Team B, this is the team that gave up Akers, Golladay, and the 208. They were the next to last place team. They finished 5-8. And when I looked at their roster, what stuck out to me was I think that they are in this weird flux. Like they don't really know what their identity is. They need to kind of pick a direction because I think they can go either way. And you'll see here when I read off their team. So the team is Joe Burrow and Sam Darnold at quarterback. So you got a good one and a bad one. Their running backs are Alvin Kamara, Jonathan Taylor, David Montgomery, Kenyon Drake, Myles Gaskin, and Raheem Mostert. Their wide receivers are Devontae Adams, Michael Thomas, Juju Smith-Schuster, and then Cole Beasley, Michael Gallup, and Van Jefferson. And then he has this amalgam of tight ends of Jared Cook, Trey Burton, Albert O, and Anthony Firkser. So you can kind of see what I'm saying, that he's got like this studs and duds, kind of needs to figure out which direction he fully wants to go and then commit to it.
Kamara will be off my team so fast.
I think Kamara, Michael Thomas,
Even
maybe
Adams.
Devontae Adams as well too, depending on which way that you're going. But he did also just get the 110 in a Superflex league, so possibly another skill position player. Maybe it's a quarterback like a Mac Jones or a Trey Lance, depending on how the actual NFL draft plays out. Could kind of go any way he wants to with that pick. But I thought it was a super interesting trade, even after looking at both of the rosters, because, like I said, Team A didn't really seem to do all that much. Team B, I think he was going after the first round pick, and I don't know. This is tough because it's just the trade seems so fair, and there's so much to digest in this one. So I'm interested to hear your take on it if you've been able to get a read on what's going on here.
I have. Real quick, what do you think the ADPs are between Juju and Kenny Golladay? Like, what do you think the difference is between them?
Well, so I can tell you right now that after working on the draft guide for DLF,
so you cheated. Okay.
That I know that in Superflex leagues, I believe Kenny Golladay is like a 7th round pick or something like that.
78th.
Yeah. And Juju would probably still be a 3rd or 4th rounder.
68th.
Oh. I didn't know Juju's. I knew Kenny Galladay's because I was like, wow, that one is crazy.
Yeah, because here's the way I look at this. Juju and Kenny Golladay are, to me, kind of a wash. Clearly, there was a little bit of a difference. Juju has, I mean, people don't really realize it, but Juju has 3 or 4 years underneath Kenny Golladay. Kenny Golladay, I think, is 26, 27. Juju will forever be 21. So the real thing in here is downgrading from Cam Akers to getting the pick. And like we said, we know that this dude probably should be rebuilding. So I think it's the perfect move. If it were me, I would try for another wide receiver instead of David Montgomery, but, it wasn't me doing the trade, clearly. So, but let me talk about this. This is Juju and Golladay, to me, might as well be a wash. Both free agents. We both most likely not going back to their original team. Golladay might get
franchised.
That's the word. I almost said flagged, and that is the wrong word. Well, maybe you get franchised. I don't like. Everyone has been saying Juju's not going back so much that to me it's just literally never happening. There's no way in the world. They probably can't afford him, but again, the cap doesn't always mean anything.
I've been saying for over a year Juju's a Steeler next year.
Really?
Literally
right.
For over a year. I'm a Steelers fan. I think he stays. He stays.
Okay, good for you. Good for you. You keep that optimism in your heart, buddy.
Please let me have this.
you got it. You got it, pal. All right, but Juju and Golladay are pretty much a wash. Now, if you were just let's take them out of it. If I had David Montgomery and I said, what would it take to get from David Montgomery to Cam Akers? I probably would say a mid-ish first, just because Akers has all this hype. He's got the age. He's got the better offense. But David Montgomery really, I've learned not to buy into people that the running backs that finish the year strong, because I've just gotten bitten so many times by that. But both of these guys did, so it's a little tough. But it did raise both of their values. So if you have a guy who believes in Montgomery but wants the shiny young toy in Akers, the 110 is probably pretty on point. It's, again, I want the mid first because I really don't believe in Montgomery. He's good, but that offense needs to be something, and that matchup needs to be something for me to feel good playing him, as opposed to feeling safe playing him. If Akers finds a way to get a lot of that backfield, especially with a better quarterback in town now, he could be a dude. He could be a low-end running back 1. I think that's around what his area is. Montgomery probably won't find that again unless he gets the greatest 5 games at the end of the season yet again.
With no Tariq Cohen.
Yeah, exactly. So there's a lot of things that worked Montgomery's way, and so throwing the first in there makes perfect sense. And the 208, I know, like I say, it's like a throw in at this point, but it kind of is, it kind of isn't. I know Superflex pushes things down, but the 208, you're kind of throwing darts, because now you're past that second tier to me. You're really at the point where you're like those running backs you were saying before. Okay, this guy landed in a place with a very, he lands in Atlanta, but so it makes it seem in the 4th round. So okay, maybe they're going to let Gurley go for 1 more year, or if he's still even under contract. But you said Atlanta before, and it's the only thing I could think of that quickly. This guy has a path, but it's not super clear. like that's when you grab that running back. So again, like this trade like really is, it may not make the most sense in the world why the rebuilding guy would do this completely, but value-wise, to me, again, you found a perfect trade.
Yeah. And I mean, everything that you said right there, because I think David Montgomery is a really interesting player because he has like these DMont stands that like point at what he did and finished out the year. I think he was actually the RB3 on the year last year just because of what he did over the past like 5-6 weeks.
He scored more points in the last 5 weeks than he did in the first 9.
Yeah. So there you go. So there's a lot of things going right for David Montgomery, and I would much rather have Cam Akers. And I agree with you that is probably, if not a mid first, definitely like a late first, like a 110 difference between the two of them. Kenny and Golladay and Juju Smith-Schuster. I don't know if they're entirely a wash. I think I would still prefer Juju just a little bit because age. There's a 3-year age difference between the two, like we already mentioned. Galladay's already 27, Juju's 24, and I still believe in Juju, and hope he's still a Steeler, but whatever. And then, that 208 is just kind of a throwaway. So we don't disagree on like anything, I think is what we've been realizing here. Like we both are pretty much on the same page with all these trades. And from a team perspective, we've kind of haven't really talked about that all too much in the analysis of the trade, but only because we're not super sure on what both teams' goals were with this trade without actually like asking them, like, do you really want Akers that bad? Like, do you prefer David Montgomery and Juju over your guys? Were you trying to go for that first round? Like, that would be the next evolution of this show, would be to find these two players, these two managers, and bring them on the show and actually ask them what they were thinking.
I mean, you're joking. I think that's awesome.
I'm like 50% joking, but I think it would be really cool.
Yeah, no, because this really is a very good trade, but you're right. The age of the running backs, I guess, is probably a little negligible. You probably got, what, a 2-year difference?
It's a 2-year difference, yeah.
So it's not the biggest deal whatsoever, but the 3 years at wide receiver is not the biggest deal to me. The thing that, to me, the only mindset I could really think of is if you're that guy that wants that X receiver on his team. Because Juju is great, but he's not Julio style wide receiver. You know, Kenny Golladay is that guy. Kenny Golladay is the big dude that will go down, up, and over everybody. And, you know, you want, if like the Eagles sign him, how great of a landing spot would that be? But if the Eagles sign Juju, doesn't necessarily fit. No, sorry, he's staying with the Steelers, so that doesn't even
exactly
matter. So that's the only other thing the only thing I could think that goes into this is if you think that having that X receiver makes your team better, because fantasy points wise, I think they will be very close to each other. Again, baking in the risk that we don't know at least what team Golladay will be on, because Juju's on the Steelers. So let's put this through the analyzer, or I should say, let's read what the analyzer has to say, because Addison already did it. This was crazy. Let's just read the totals. Actually, that's a lie, because Juju is 307.5. Kenny Golladay is 258. So we're talking a 50-point difference, which is, I think we said 70 points was the 301 at some point. So
yeah, it's not. You're talking like a mid-third there.
Yeah, so that's pretty much nothing. So in which case, the rest of this, I'm not doing that much math, but so now the total of the trade is, the Juju side is 824.5. You ready for this? Well, you are, because you did it, but everyone listening, watching, whatever you're doing, the Golladay side, 826.2, a difference of 1.7. And as Addison put on the show sheet, probably the fairest trade of all time. Like, I really, well, first of all, I hope these guys have a DLF subscription, and after they did the trade, saw how even this was, because putting the trade this together and finding out how fair it is has to be very satisfying.
Oh yeah, but I was satisfied for them putting.
Yeah, exactly. But so hopefully these guys have their DLF subscription. Hopefully, you know, after they saw this offer, like, man, this offer seems good. Let me just check real quick. Yeah, it's good. Except, so again, you know, this isn't very fun what do you call this? Streaming or YouTubing or whatever. I'm so used to saying podcasting because we've agreed on literally everything through 3 episodes, I think. And this time, the Trade Analyzer agrees with us at least, and that makes it even more agreement. At least the past 2 shows, we disagreed with the Trade Analyzer. But man, kudos to you guys. This is a wonderfully put together trade. Team A, you need to figure some stuff out. This trade doesn't really get you in any certain direction. If the thing is, I think you can flip Akers for more than you can Montgomery in the 110. So to me, I don't know if I would have made that wide receiver swap, and I would have found some guy that was willing to do Akers for earlier first and a wide receiver 2. Like, that's kind of the trade I would have done if I were him. Again, assuming he thinks he's rebuilding.
But I mean, Kenny Golladay is kind of like what we talked about last week. James Robinson, if he survives the NFL draft and free agency, is going to see a value rise. Kenny Golladay is kind of in that same situation. Like, if he's franchise tagged, if he signs somewhere else, no matter what, his value is going to go up because we haven't seen him play in like a year. That was also like a very big problem with Babytron right now. Like, we haven't seen him play. He didn't do anything last year. We have this free agency, risk of where he's going to go. And if he stays in Detroit, he is like the only guy there if he's franchise tagged. And Jared Goff was
talking bad about Quintez Cephas, buddy.
Okay. I mean, I really like Cephas, coming out of Wisconsin and stuff too. But like, it would really just be Kenny Golladay because Marvin Jones isn't going to re-sign with the Lions. And Jared Goff was able to make Woods and Cooper Kupp both top 24 wide receivers. So if he could do that with Golladay and then TJ Hawkinson or Quintez Cephas is out there, and then you got, DeAndre Swift, like, it's a pretty solid offense, and it would be pretty good for fantasy, especially because their defense isn't great. So, like, they're going to have to throw. So Golladay could definitely see a rise. Cam Akers, I think, would be really good. You could probably trade him now, like you said, shiny new toy. You could trade him for more right now if you're trying to figure out which direction your team is going. Personally, I just like the Akers Golladay side.
Yeah, just realize I don't think we've ever actually said like we choose this side. We've just been talking about if trades are fair or not.
Right.
But I'm with you on this one. I think I prefer the Akers Golladay side, even though you're giving up that first round pick.
Yep. I'm with it.
All right. Well, at least we just found a little something we're going to add to shows going forward. We're actually going to, give our opinions on trades as opposed to just, actually, we guess we are giving our opinions on trade. We're going to let you know how we feel about which side of the trade we like a little better. Because we did last week and this week, things will be, values are always affected by the future, but very specific things. Last week we talked about James Robinson at the draft. Now we're talking about really just Kenny Golladay and where he lands because Juju Smith-Schuster is going to stay on the Steelers. But that was another episode of the DLF Trade Show. I am at Dynasty Outhouse. He is at AmazeHaze_. And we will be back finding trades for random NFL players, letting you know how to trade them, what to trade them for, and how we feel about it, because that's what you're watching, right? To see what we feel. Yeah?
Hopefully.
No? All right. Well, until next time.